Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GCU Talks. I am Ayushpet Kolita, and today with us we have a very distinguished political economist and a public intellectual, Dr. Parakala Prabhakar sir. Thank you for joining us in this session of podcast. A very warm welcome to you. We have a great set of questions lined up for you, but before that, I would like to ask you, how are you and how are you finding our university?
Oh, I'm very well, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, sir. And with your permission, I would like to proceed in this session. So, I would like to ask the first question. You have worked across academia, public policy, and writing. What originally drew you into political economy as a way of understanding India?
Well, you see, I was taught in my university and in my college that fundamentally all social sciences are one. If you want to understand what happened to a society before, you go to history. What is it producing and how is it producing? How is it distributing? How is it creating wealth? You go to economic aspect. How are they governing themselves? Who governs and what gives the legitimacy to a governance? And who is accountable? To whom are anybody accountable? That is the political aspect. Then how are the relations between a family, within the family, between the family and another family, between a village and another village? And what are the subdivisions in the community? Are the castes, are the races, are the religions? That gives you a sociological aspect. And as human beings, how did we evolve? How did we look like before? And what did we do earlier? How did we lead our lives? That's anthropology. So, for a comprehensive understanding of human being and human society, you need all aspects of it. But primarily, how are they governing themselves and how are they producing the wealth and distributing the wealth? And what is the interaction? The intersection between these two is political economy. And my feeling is that you need to have a comprehensive understanding of all these disciplines. Of course, you specialize in order to, focus very closely and very sharply on a particular aspect. That doesn't mean that any aspect of a human's life is independent of the other aspects. So, in order to understand what are the political implications of an economic decision and economic implications of a political decision, you need to have an approach which is called the political economy approach. And I individually do not believe in a cut and dry approach that this is politics and that is economics, or that is sociology, this is anthropology, that is history. All these are interwoven. But as humans, we have our own limitations. We cannot study every aspect of it. So therefore, for me to understand politics, of course, I also look at the historical aspect of it, but more prominently, I look at the economic aspect of it. And in order to understand the economic aspect of it, I also look at sociological and historical, but more focused sharply on the political aspect. So it is the polity and the economy, political economy, that I study.
Yes, sir. So, was there any particular moment or aspect in your life that made you think economics cannot be separated from politics in the Indian context?
Well, in every society's aspect for that matter, these two are inseparable. As I said, the entire gamut of social science disciplines are one. In fact, post-Second World War, the academia started specializing, especially under the influence of the US academia, department. Otherwise, for instance, Adam Smith, who wrote, when people consider him as almost the father of Indian modern economic studies, he was a philosopher. He was holding a chair of philosophy. It's not a chair of economics. And even as late as now, Amartya Sen, he was holding political economy, economics, and philosophy all chairs together. So it's a comprehensive look at society. For me personally, um, I somehow did not study political science as a political science student. I did not study that as an academic discipline. My major was from my graduation onwards. My major has always been economics. Of course, I studied history as a discipline, but then increasingly I thought that understand, because see, how do how do resources, how do decisions on the distribution of resources take place? Um, say, I was closely following the budget and budget presentation, and to me, when I looked at my state budget and the union budget, sometimes those days when I was in my formative years and when I was studying, I thought, um, not as a person, but as a student of the society, I thought that political compulsions and political factors influence the distribution of resources, and that in turn impacts the political outcomes later. So that is how I came into looking at a combination of economy and polity together.
So, how important do you think institutions like universities, media, and regulating bodies influence economic outcomes in a democracy like India?
Ah, well, it's a very complex question. You cannot say X, Y, or A leads to B. B is caused by A. It's not that kind of a thing. But then, having said that, I must also say that academia devotes itself to the study and teaching, which means examines ideas, researches, researches nature, researches the social phenomena, and then teaches, and then spreads knowledge, ideas, and media carries it, political institutions debate it, implement it, and there are contests, in the sense that you propose an idea, I disagree with the idea, so there is a debate, and that debate is as an outcome of politics, and they result in certain outcomes that influences the polity, the economy, the institutions, academia, media, because they're all mutually influencing each other. Each thing has some implication directly or indirectly, perceptibly or imperceptibly, or every other thing.
They play a part of their own.
Yes. They play a part of their own. They're influenced by other factors and in turn influence the other factors.
So it's a on continuous
It,
moving
it,
cycle.
it's a very close interaction among all these.
Do you think universities today are enough to means are doing enough to encourage critical thinking and debate on political and economic issues
These days,
these days?
I'm afraid not. Uh, see, um, to my mind, a lot of public institutions, public universities, are underfunded. The libraries are not well equipped. In the sciences, the labs are not well equipped. The funding is coming down year by year, and I think at certain level, the political establishment is very afraid of critical thinking by the young people, and critical thinking and questioning, examination of the decisions by the policymakers or the political establishment is not encouraged. Therefore, I think universities, the kind of critical role that they are required to play is not happening now. Well, was it better? Was it perfect earlier? It's not perfect, but better than this. See, for example, when I was in the university life, when I was studying, um, especially the university that I studied, it was funded well. We had good libraries, and we had a lot of freedom to think and to express, to debate, to question. We did not follow the hierarchical structures of uh, very deferential attitude towards teachers. We could question the teachers, and teachers also did not force us to believe in one or the other, accept one or the other. That kind of atmosphere wasn't there. I hear now that that kind of atmosphere is increasing. It's getting restricted.
Oh, so since we moved on to youth, now I would like to ask, like, how students like us navigate through the political opinions in the era of social media. Like, they're everywhere. We can get political opinions from anyone in the world in the palm of our hands. So how can we navigate through them?
Oh, see, you are living in an era where there's a surfeit of information. It's too much of information. Um, it's difficult to navigate. We did not have that. We could go to a source. Okay, of course, it was for us very difficult to access information. But today, it's so easy that you're flooded with it. Maybe you're even inundated by it. Um, You see, it has its own limitations. If you want to confuse a person, what you can do is you can give two pieces of relevant information buried in the heap of 1,000 pieces of irrelevant information. One, of course, it distracts. Two, you spend more time in sifting through irrelevant information, and probably it also gives you a wrong direction.
Yeah.
And by the time you really find out what are the two actually relevant pieces of information, probably you spend a lot of time. You're exhausted by the end of the day. So that is a real challenge.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Exactly, exactly. So that challenge, see, the thing is, if you're aware of that challenge, then your focus can be sharper. But if you're not aware that, two pieces of relevant information are buried in a million pieces of non-relevant or irrelevant information, if you're not aware of that, you don't know where to look for. You don't know how to look for.
First, we need to think what is the right, what is error.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we get lost in the irrelevant information.
It's a babe in the woods.
Yes, sir. So, under the present regime, research funding appears to be shrinking alongside increased increased attempts to influence academic institutions. How do you see this affecting academic freedom and knowledge production in India?
See, let's look at it in two parts. One is research funding, social sciences and physical sciences, natural sciences. India has been spending much less than required on research. R&D spending is very low in India compared to many countries. I mean, it's not a question of a scarcity of resources. If there is a will, of course, then you cut somewhere and put it here. Maybe you can cut a bit of a defense spending, or cut a bit of wasteful expenditure here and there, and put it here. What? The second thing is what goes in the name of R&D expenditure is mainly for development rather than research part of it. Between R and D, research and development, the concentration is on development, not on research actually. Original research is very, very underfunded. And when it comes to social sciences, especially the present dispensation is worried and is very scared of social sciences funding, because social sciences encourages critical thinking. Critical thinking, not in terms of whether A is good or not. That is another aspect. But then, is this particular policy, is this right policy? Is it really affecting the fundamental rights, or how does it relate to Article 21, Article 19, or this and that? Those kind of questions are asked by the social scientists. So social science funding is much restricted these days, and this goes hand in hand with the restriction of freedom of expression, academic freedom. What is your research agenda? Are you allowed to? Are you permitted to research on this? Can you ask questions about what happened to your funding? Where did you spend that money? Where are you collecting that money? Where is the GST going? Why certain state gets more and why certain state gets less? These questions are discouraged. Even expression is discouraged. If expression is discouraged, in order to discourage or restrict expression, you also restrict the research. Probing is. So that is what is. It's very unfortunate. That is happening. That's the reality.
So, with private universities facing strong commercial pressures alongside increasing government interference, how do you see them surviving and evolving?
Now, you see, if it is, if the university has to sustain only from the fee that they collect from the student, then there will be a lot of commercial pressure. Because you see, everything that has to be built and every infrastructure that is brought in, a library, a book, or a lab, or some chemical, or an instrument, where do they get the money from? They have to collect it from the student, or they have to borrow, and then borrowed money has cost of money. Then it has to be repaid. It has to be repaid means it has to be collected.
Yeah.
So, which means that provision of education, in the absence of state funding, in the absence of endowments that give the students scholarships or aid or research grants, then what happens is that only those who can afford, only those families which can afford to send their wards and their children to private universities, only they can really qualify themselves. What happens to people who can't afford, because ours is a very unequal country, economically unequal, socially unequal, culturally unequal, regionally unequal. Some people can afford, some people can't afford. You see, in a country like ours, what is the main resource available to a poor person or somebody who is deprived, social deprivation? You can break out of your poverty and your social deprivation only by empowering yourself through education. Now, if that education itself becomes inaccessible, where is the resource for you to come out of your present deprivation, inequality, social or economic? Where is it? So, education should not be made inaccessible to the poor and the deprived. So, which means that the society as a collective will have to think of making education accessible, which means that the society collectively will have to think about making education a public good, like you have to make health a public good, accessible to everybody.
Thank you, sir, for the session. And before leaving, I would like to request you to give a small piece of advice for the Indian youth and for us, basically.
Well, I mean, not an advice, but my request to all the young people of this country, especially in the universities, is that our republic is based on certain core values. Those values are justice, equality, fraternity, liberty, secularism. My appeal to them is to recollect these ideals at least once a day and see if what is happening in our society, in our polity, in our economy, are they meeting these ideals? Are they in line with these ideals? Is any move by the government or the civil society, is it promoting justice, promoting equality, promoting fraternity, promoting liberty, promoting secularism, or is it working against it? And I want these 4 or 5 core values to be um, the 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 basis on which every move, every policy has to be measured.
This should be the fundamentals of it.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So thank you for joining us. And,
Thank you.
and with this, I'd like to conclude today's session. And thank you very much.